Hey everybody, Eric here. I'm here with Wes this afternoon, and welcome to the Mission Breakout Lafayette Experience.
Yep, we are super excited to bring this to you guys. We're going to have a lot of fun, talk about some general escape stuff, as well as some stuff that's just going on with us, and we hope you guys enjoy it.
We're going to be talking about escape room, we're going to be talking about our rooms here, we're going to be talking about life in general, and we want you to come up with topics as well. If you have a topic that you'd like us to talk on, by all means, comment in the section below, and we will absolutely add that to our list of topics that we will talk on. So,
absolutely.
Right.
So what do we got on the docket for today, Eric?
Well, Wes, I know that a lot of people know who you are.
Sure.
You've been here, what, 4 years now?
Going on, yeah.
So you've been here quite a while. You've been here the longest out of all the employees. And so just for people who don't know who you are, kind of what is your role here at Mission Breakout Lafayette?
Sure, yeah. So I primarily function as manager here, so I'm basically your stand-in whenever you're not here. I try to make sure that everything keeps flowing smoothly, whether that be, just keeping things on time for a busy Saturday, which we do have quite a lot of, and it can get a little hectic. So sometimes there's just kind of that voice that needs to be had where it's just like, hey, everything's okay, we got this, we just got to keep moving, keeping customers happy. And then on the side, I also do some design work for us. So I designed our Trials of Oz room about a year ago or so now. I've helped with a couple of our other designs as well as some maintenance here and there, and I put together our dev team, and we're going to be doing a room next year that we're very excited about. So.
Yeah, very excited about that. Stay tuned for details on that as we get closer to the end of this year and into next year. So kind of tell me a little bit about your role as what you do here. So give me an example of, like, what are some challenges that you find within your role as manager?
Yeah, absolutely. So some of the challenges can be, it's just, especially when we're getting busy, we are entering our busy season with it coming into the holiday months, and sometimes just kind of keeping everything organized and keeping everything straight can be a bit difficult. So, let's say that we have 15 groups on a Saturday. That's a lot of use that the rooms are getting, and sometimes, things happen, accidents happen, and something in the room will, break or malfunction or something like that. And trying to find the time to make either a quick fix or get it completely repaired in time to make sure that, again, everything can keep running on schedule, everybody's still getting the experience that they deserve in the rooms can sometimes be a little bit challenging, but I've never found it to be close to impossible. Again, it's just kind of about compartmentalizing what you need to do and, delegating certain tasks to other people that perhaps don't require my expertise, just to make sure that I am doing what everybody else needs me to do.
That's a good point about it being a challenge, is the fact that we are under a little bit of a time crunch when we have our groups in. We do have an hour and 45 minutes between the start time of this room and then the start time of when it comes again. But however, if the room is being used for 60 minutes and then afterwards we take the group's picture, and then by the time we're ready, it's another 15 minutes later. So we really only have maybe between 30 and 35 minutes to get that room ready for the next group that comes in. And depending on the room that we have here, it takes anywhere between 5 and 15 minutes to reset the room.
Absolutely.
So you're down to between 20 and 30 minutes. So if you do have a malfunction with the room, that's where the challenges come in, is to be able to try to get that functioning as best you can to get that ready for the next group.
That's absolutely right. Again, there have been times where it can range from minor things like, maybe this prop that's supposed to be screwed down has come a little bit loose and you want to prevent it from getting any worse. That kind of stuff, that's, easy. But, I mean, obviously you and I have both experienced times where, after a game something major has gone wrong that we need to kind of snap into action and deal with. And sometimes that means, maybe you go to the customer side of things, take care of people at the window, take care of phone calls, and all while I'm working in the back. Or sometimes maybe if we can, maybe I'll need a second set of hands just to either, hold something for me while I work on it or shine a light, something like that. So it is really all about that, being able to work together in order to get that done. But even barring any repairs, I mean, I think what a lot of people maybe don't realize about what we do is that the devil is in the details. 100%. I mean, you and I both preach that making sure to get the room to an acceptable place, not just say, okay, all of this is back where it is supposed to go for the game, but be paying attention to those little things, be paying attention to those details, so that everybody gets the exact same experience and it's to the quality that we would want to deliver.
Absolutely, and you've heard me say that before, that we can go over 1,000 different things here.
Sure.
We can go over, this might happen to this prop, or watch for this for in this particular room, but as soon as we do that, thing number 1,001 is going to come up, and then it's something we've never seen before. So you have to draw on that previous knowledge in order to be able to get corrected whatever you need to get corrected.
100%. You're never going to be able to prepare people for every single eventuality. I mean, even myself, I've run the rooms for a long time. I know all of their intricate inner workings like the back of my hand. There are still times where I'll be here either during the week or on a weekend, what have you, and there are still things that'll come up that genuinely surprise me, that I've never once seen before. And that's just kind of part of it. You have to be able to see that, to recognize it, and like you said, draw off of that previous experience that you have with it in order to formulate a solution to the problem, whether that be fixing it in its entirety or figuring out some sort of workaround so that the room will still function, again, to that quality that we're looking for, even if it's not for its intended purpose, if that makes sense.
Absolutely, and I know you've had a couple of those things recently that have come up.
Very much so.
Like in the Trial of Oz room, we've had a little issue with the broom.
Yes.
Working like it's supposed to. If you haven't come to play that room, come on and play it sometime. But that was a very easy fix.
Yes, absolutely.
Whereas in the Barrel of Lies room, our winery Sabotage, you had a little bit more of a difficult situation here recently, which turned out to be really nothing more than a 5-minute fix, but it could have been a lot worse than what it was.
Absolutely. There have been times in the winery specifically, and don't worry for anybody who hasn't played it, this is not a spoiler whatsoever, but in the room, as you know, there is a bar there, and there are some cabinet doors on the bar. Just pretty standard, open them up, it's like the easy hinges. But we've had it in the past where, sometimes, and it's nobody's fault, obviously things happen, but, people will run into them while they're open, and we've had it in the past where the door has come off the hinges. And it's gotten, on occasion, to the point where, it's been done so many times that, the screws don't really want to fit in the holes anymore.
Right.
And at that point, it's kind of on me to think of either a workaround for the cabinet door or a different solution entirely so that I can avoid having to basically keep repeating the same thing that I know doesn't work.
Right, yes, because we get, and like you say, you got to draw on that previous experience.
Absolutely.
And so when you have things like that come up, it might not be just a fix that you see it like, oh, okay, I see what the problem is. A lot of times when it comes to things like that, we have to be able to think outside the box, right?
Yes, very much so.
It's a situation where, like we said, it may not be something we've seen before. So okay, it's like we can't be necessarily in here. We got to be outside of that.
That's right.
In order to be able to come up with that solution.
That's right. Not everything is going to be staring at you right in the face because again, we're not, as I would call it, a conventional business. I mean, we're in the entertainment industry, which has obviously been around for hundreds and hundreds of years, but our specific niche of the industry, if you will, has only been around the mainstream, really, for the last, I'll be generous and say, a decade. So we don't have as much of the, I would say, corporate infrastructure as I think a lot of other businesses do. Like, you look at McDonald's, let's say that they have a fryer that goes down. They have people on the horn, in the hopper, ready to take care of that for them. We don't particularly have that. I mean, we have me, but again, we are very unique in the way that we operate. So there's a lot more, I would say, critical thinking that needs to be done with that.
All right. So yeah, that's fantastic. That's great. So how was your weekend?
Weekend was fine. Obviously, we had Feast of the Hunter's Moon this weekend, so that did draw a little bit of traffic over out there to the fort. We did have a pretty good Saturday. That was the primary day that I was here. I was here for about 11 hours on Saturday. Saw a good group turnout, nothing nutty, but we had a good number of people here. They seemed to be having fun. Had a good number of families here too, which is always a joy to see. You know, that's one of my favorite parts of doing the customer side of things, is just seeing those families that, you know, may not be able to do things together all the time. You know, I certainly know that when I was growing up, you know, activities in high school and music and all of that, it definitely was a major draw on my time. You know, my parents were busy, my siblings were busy, and it was always nice to be able to do stuff like that together, because it kind of felt like a breath of fresh air, you know, a relief. You know, we can actually do something together. And so while I may not know the backstory of everybody that comes in here, no matter the case, it's always nice to see, whether it be families, you know, kids, maybe it's the parents that are, you know, finally having a night to themselves, whatever. It always makes me so happy to see that.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, yeah, I was at the feast as well this weekend.
Awesome, yeah.
If you've never been to the feast, you got to go check it out. It's
100%.
fantastic.
It's a great event.
It is a festival that's in the early part of October here in Lafayette that focuses on pioneer life in the 1700s out at Fort Ouiatenon here. So if you ever have a chance to go to that, by all means, check it out sometime.
Very much so. And one of the things that I love so much about the feast is that, very much like us, it is incredibly community driven, which obviously, with us being a small business, I would say intrinsically we are community driven, but even past that, I know you and I have tried, especially in the past few months, to just really hit that hard, because again, what are we without our community? I mean, you guys are fantastic. So yeah, we're very community oriented, and they've always been the most important thing to us, and I'm sure you can agree.
Absolutely, yeah. Yes. That's why we feel that we're here, because we do feel like we're very connected to the community. We feel like we're very much a part of the community. You know, people come in all the time that are looking for donations for, you know, fundraisers and things like that, and always say absolutely yes, because, you know, we want to, whatever organization you're a part of, we want to see you raise as much money as possible, and that's really, really important to us here.
Very much so. Yeah, I mean, again, we have, I would say, a wide range of people that come in here. Again, we don't know everybody's backstories, but we know that they're all here to do the same thing, whether it not be for the same reason, but, you know, they're all here to have a good time, right? And we always strive our best to not only give them a good time, but show them that we're having a good time with them. Like, we want to be part of their experience. We don't want it to be where they come in and we shove them in a room and say good luck. You know, we're talking with them. You know, we want to get to know them. We want each experience, while giving them the same experience in the rooms, each experience is going to be unique, because everybody is unique. And we want to be able to really draw on that, hey, we see you as the individual person that you are. We want to get to know you. You are special to us.
Yeah. And we got all kinds of groups in here too. Right?
Very much so.
We get families, we get friends, we get, you know, people who are just here to have a good time. We get people that are, you know, a little bit more competitive, which they're all wonderful. They're all great.
Very much so.
So what we've got today is we've got 12 tips, because everybody wants to know, you know, everybody wants to be successful, right? Everybody wants to succeed.
Never met someone who wants to lose an escape room.
Right. Everybody wants to win. So we've got 12 tips for you today as to how to successfully conquer an escape room. We won't say beat, because maybe you won't beat it, but you'll get most of the way through, and that might be an accomplishment for you as well.
That's right.
So number one is establishing team roles. What are your thoughts on that?
I think establishing team roles is great. Now, I don't think that if you do assign a role to someone, I don't think that it should be rigid no matter what, because obviously some people are going to have skills that you may not realize until you're halfway through the game. So I think that roles are important, kind of, especially if you are the de facto leader, organizer of the group. I think maybe assigning people some different roles could be helpful in certain cases. But I would say the most important thing when assigning those roles is making sure that you're listening to everybody and making sure that you're paying attention to what everybody's skill set is, in addition to what they want to do in the room. Like, what are they looking to get out of it?
That's a good point you bring up about skill set, in the fact that, you know, if you are going to have team roles, you need to first, before you come, you need to figure out who fits where.
Absolutely.
And fits well.
Absolutely.
And, you know, we see a lot of that with our team building groups that come in, you know, our corporate groups, that, you know, that you don't necessarily see them doing a very good job of that. You see a lot of the same traditional roles come in here to the escape room as opposed to what you have in the workplace. So yeah, I think establishing team roles, and I think that's a good thing. All right, so the second one is think simple. I think this is kind of an interesting one to me because we see that a lot, don't we? We see that the answer to whatever the clue is that they're looking at is literally right in front of the person's face.
Yeah.
But they want to look so much deeper into that and look for so much more meaning.
Absolutely.
When there's nothing there that they need to address any further.
And I think that there's definitely a fine line to be walked there, because on the one hand, yes, a lot of the times the simplest solution is the one you're looking for. You know, we're not trying to fit a square peg into a circular hole, right? You know, the solution will easily fit when you find it. But on the other hand, you know, we do encourage outside of the box thinking, which I think for some people can lead to that looking too deep into a certain clue, puzzle, etc. So there's definitely a balance there, right? You know, you need to, on the one hand, be open to solutions that maybe you hadn't thought of previously, but on the other hand, you know, if something seems like a good lead or a good starting point for something, go with your gut. Absolutely.
And we do see that sometimes.
Yes.
With the think simple and the fact that, you know, people might have to have different steps to get to the think simple, but we see them kind of chunk things, right?
Sure, yes.
And they kind of leave pieces out, and so what they think is going to get them to that answer that they need, maybe it will, but they're missing pieces in between.
Very much so. And again, everybody is going to have, at some point, a different thought process. Nobody's going to go from point A to point B and take the same road to that point as everybody else. There's always going to be maybe a little bit of zigzagging between those 2 points. Maybe you come back around and then you find the solution there at the end. But again, everybody's going to have at least a semi-different method of getting between those 2 points.
Right. The third one is stay focused. Boy, this is a big one, isn't it?
This is, in fact, a big one.
This is a big
Very
one.
much so.
We see this so much in the fact that, you know, people will find something and look at it and do something with it, and they'll do 90% of what they're supposed to do with it, and then they'll set it down or put it somewhere, and they'll move on to something else and completely forget about that thing that they were working on.
100%.
Then later on, the person who needs that piece, they don't have that piece because we've forgotten about that piece.
That's exactly right. Again, it's more just coming from someone who sometimes does have trouble staying focused on one specific thing. I get it, but you know, if you let's use your example. Let's say they have a puzzle. Maybe it's a little bit more in depth. There's a little bit more required to it, and they're getting a good chunk of the way through, and then just something else catches their eye, and they think, oh, maybe this is important as well. And it very well may be, but the problem that you're doing that is that you're leaving that, so that whole thought process that you've been setting up for that puzzle is now derailed. And you can come back to it, but there's no telling whether you're like, okay, wait, what was I doing here again? How far had I gotten? What was the last thing that I did? That kind of thing. Yeah.
You know, it's what the dog's name from the movie Up.
Oh, Doug.
Doug. Squirrel.
Squirrel. You know? Exactly.
We see that all the time. People get the squirrel mentality.
Very much so. Very much
which
so.
Which is very entertaining for us.
Oh, of course it is. Of course. So our fourth tenet here, if you will, is maximizing your search efforts. So what does that look like to you?
So I think that exactly what it says, maximizing your search efforts. I think that, again, like we just talked about, that focus, you know, if you stay focused, you're going to maximize your efforts.
Okay,
You know, like you say, if you get off track, you know, like I said, when we're talking about things simple, that people sort of chunk things up, and it's almost like a zipper. You know, if you don't have all the teeth in the zipper, your zipper's not going to work.
That's right.
And so you've got to have all those pieces in order for you to maximize it. Now, you might not be aware that you have all the pieces, and we'll talk about that here at one of our other points here soon. But certainly, you know, analyze, but don't overanalyze. I guess is exactly what I want to say on that.
Okay, let's cut this out. This is my reminder to send a meeting reminder.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
As I set an alarm because I've been forgetting to do it. So there it is, meeting at 7 tonight. Alright. Cool. It's not going to ring again. Okay, sorry about that. So, what had we been saying?
Maximize search efforts.
Yes, maximize. And I think that also plays into the first thing that we talked about, which is establishing those team roles. You know, maybe you have people who are better at observational skills. You know, maybe they'll be looking, let's say, at a chest of drawers, and they'll maybe find like a secret compartment or something like that. They're better at picking out those key differences, so maybe you set them on, okay, look for anything out of the ordinary, and we can go from there.
And it was funny that you talking about that, finding those hidden compartments, we find that when we have, particularly families in, we find that usually the kids are better searchers and better communicators than what the adults or the parents are. So it's very interesting that we do see that.
Well, and I find that, quite frankly, it's because the kids don't have as many preconceived notions as their parents do. So they're more open to, hey, maybe this isn't all what it seems. And I think that's beautiful. I think that's wonderful. And I always love seeing that, you know, maybe the parents, maybe they're struggling a little bit in the room, maybe they're not finding everything that they need to be finding, which again, it happens, it's fine. And then, sure as you know, little Timmy or whatever, he goes and he's like, hey, by the way, I found this, and it's the next thing they need. And it's just always such a wonderful thing to see.
And disclaimer, a hidden compartment doesn't necessarily mean destruction.
No, that is correct.
We'll keep that in mind too. All right, next one we have there is use your senses.
Yes.
I think for what we experience here, the two biggest senses are sight and hearing.
That's correct.
Use your sight. Look around, look for things. Try to find a starting point with things, and then your ears. Probably your ears are more important.
Oh, 100% agree.
Because listening to what other people have to say, or maybe there's an audio clue that you're getting, or as we find that when we give people clues, we have different sounders in each of our rooms, and people don't necessarily pay attention to what the sounder sounds like. So I think your senses, I think, are particularly here. Your hearing is probably the most important.
Very much so. And I mean, realistically, there are some escape rooms that do this, but we haven't done anything with it as of yet. There are some that do draw on stuff like smell and taste. Again, another disclaimer, don't go tasting anything in the room. That's not necessary. But I would say another one, maybe not quite to the height of importance as sight and hearing, feel, very much so. Again, let's go back to the example of secret compartments. Maybe it's not something that you can see, but maybe you're running your hands along something and, oh wait, maybe this little section feels different from the rest of it. Or, maybe you're searching under a ledge and, oh, I feel something under there, that kind of thing.
Yep, absolutely.
Again, maybe not quite to the height of importance as the other two, but I would say that it is definitely still important to, again, be very spatially aware, both of yourself and the things surrounding you.
Absolutely. Agree with that 100%. All right, our next topic is focus on obstacles. I don't know if I necessarily agree with this.
Okay, sure.
Because I think focusing too much on your obstacles is going to hinder you. Now, while you're going to obviously have obstacles because you're going to have points where you get stuck,
yes,
right?
Absolutely.
Because not every puzzle is just going to be merely just black and white with the answer right in front.
Not
of
a gimme.
But if you do have situations like that, to me, that sort of goes back to establishing the team roles, right? And the fact that if you have that, okay, whoever your appointed leader is, that you go back and say, okay, we're getting stuck here, we're getting frustrated. All right, so let's refocus, see what we've got here. Let's brainstorm and see if we can come up with a different direction.
Sure.
And then I think that will help you overcome those obstacles that you do come across.
Fair enough. And personally, the way I perceive that, and again, this is just me, but the way that I look at it is that instead of focusing on the obstacles as a negative thing, because again, you hear the word obstacles, you think, oh, this is not good, right? The way that I focus on it is like, let's say that you're in the first room of an escape room and you know for a fact there has to be a second room. So you know that in order to progress in the game, in order to eventually win, you are at some point going to have to get into that second room through whatever means the room has laid out for you. And so I would view that as, okay, we know that we have this obstacle of getting into room 2. So what do we have to do? Let's work backwards from that in order to overcome that obstacle. But maybe thinking about it in obstacles terms isn't all that kosher, if you will.
Challenge.
Challenge,
Call
sure.
it challenge.
Yes.
Call it challenge, sure. All right, next one is familiarize with locks. I don't think we have a lot of that here that people would need to familiarize yourself with. I mean, as we have done, if you have been here before and you have seen our rooms, as we do new rooms and we progress on our technology, we progress on our games and bring you better quality games, you can see that we're starting to get away from those things. We're starting to get away from locks and keys and you know, letter locks and digit locks and things like that.
Sure.
But I think just if you're going to familiarize yourself with locks, just keep in mind that some of them have some nuances. Like, for example, if you have, like, you know, some of the common ones we have are like 4-number locks. Well, the 4-number locks, on the face of the lock, there's little notches that you have to line the numbers up. Well, sometimes people want to turn on its side and do it on this thin side, and then try to do the combination where if they flip it to the flat side, then they can see the notches on there, and then that's got their combination. Same thing, but we have some of that with, you know, 3-number locks.
Sure.
We have some 5-letter locks. The same thing. So you can usually tell that when there's a lock that you have to open, there's usually a very specific place that it will let you know. Or like we do have some number locks where you do turn it on the side and it's got squares.
Yeah, little windows.
Little windows that you put the numbers in order to be able to open locks successfully.
Exactly. It's one of those things where there are definitely some standards for the locks, but not all of them are going to be made exactly the same. So just being able to look for those subtle, but I would say definitely key differences, because obviously they do, at the end of the day, determine how the lock functions. I would say looking for those things and just familiarizing yourself with either, you know, you can say, okay, I know some of them have the lines on the front, some of them have the windows on the front, some of them have little arrows, whatever. But I would also just say, again, keep a critical eye, because typically speaking, if a lock has that kind of indication on it, it's not a subtle indication. It's pretty obvious.
Exactly. Yes. Absolutely. All right. Next one is decipher codes and
ciphers.
Decipher codes and ciphers. That's kind of a redundant thing.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah. So what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, realistically, there are a lot of different ciphers that have been around since the Revolutionary War, even. I mean, ciphers have been ways for people to secretly communicate with each other for, again, centuries. So, in an escape room setting, how does that translate? Well, instead of having to, because back then what you would have to do is you would have to automatically know how those ciphers work and be able to decipher them yourself. Obviously here we don't expect you to do that, we give you everything that you need. So I would say the most important part with deciphering those things is just, again, like I've said ad nauseum at this point, keeping that critical eye and saying, oh wait, maybe these symbols look like what's on this page here, or oh wait a minute, this page has these symbols that are mapped to different letters, and I have a string of these 5 symbols, maybe this will make a word. That kind of thing. Again, you're trying to keep an eye out for what can work together, and I feel like with ciphers especially, that is of utmost importance.
And interesting that you say that we're going to give you everything. So that's something that we do here, is that you don't have to have any outside knowledge of the game before you come in.
That's right.
Everything that you're going to need to be able to solve the room is going to be contained within the room. So we don't do, like pop culture references or things like that if that's not in your wheelhouse, you're not going to be able to figure out. Everything that you need to solve the room is contained within the room.
That's right. Obviously, we do include, like for instance, I can think of a couple of Easter eggs that I included in Oz, or some things that we included in Olympus, that are a nod to those people who may know more about the subject matter, but they are not at all integral to gameplay. It's more of just a, hey, we see you, we recognize that you like the theming of the room, you know, have this as a treat kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
All right, reorganized written clues. So we see a little bit of that here as well.
Yeah, sure.
Particularly in our Sherlock room, we have a lot of written clues in there. And so, yeah, so sometimes you have to, you know, we say that, you know, the solution or the answer might be right in front of you, but it might take a more critical eye of looking at what's right in front of you
Yes.
in order to be able to figure out what the clue is telling you.
A lot of hidden in plain sight examples with this section, because again, you know, taking the letters in Sherlock, for instance, you know, obviously we're in 1880s Victorian era England. It's not like people were sending snail mails or emails at that point, right? So you find these letters, and it's important to read them carefully because there may or may not be some info in there that you need. But I mean, if nothing else, it provides more context to the story because we're very story-oriented with our rooms. We try to craft a narrative around that. And again, it's important to have that critical eye. You know, it might look like an ordinary letter, or, you know, even going past Sherlock as an example, you know, maybe you find some sort of, I've done a room where you found a birthday card in one part of the room, and the birthday card, when held up to it was this little paper with some different shaped windows in it. It spelled out a code that I needed. And I wouldn't have known to do that until I said, oh wait, the size of this birthday card is the exact same size as the size of the card. So again, it's looking for, even past the letters that are on the page, you know, in that case it was the size of the letter, sometimes it's the color of the letter, sometimes it's what's on the back, it doesn't matter. It's just keeping an eye out for things that you might not normally have to look for.
Perfectly said. Well done.
Thank you.
Yeah. And then identifying patterns, that's really important as well.
Very much so.
We kind of touched on that just here a second ago.
Yes.
Is finding those patterns, like you said. You know, well, I have this birthday card. It's the exact same size as this paper. Those look like those go together.
Very much so.
So figuring out, then when you put that on there, then you see, oh, I see a pattern of letters here to be able to figure out what my next clue is.
Yes, absolutely. And I would say that that goes beyond just the clues themselves. I would say that rooms, escape rooms in general, especially when they, you know, again, all of our rooms have one central theme that they rotate around, you know, whether that be Masquerade Manor or Barrel of Lies. You know, Barrel of Lies is themed around a winery, so you know for a fact that a lot of the puzzles in there are going to be wine-themed in one way or another. So there is certain patterning that you can observe that interconnect the different puzzles, so while you may not know the answers to the puzzle by doing a puzzle previously, you can kind of get that mentality of, oh, this is kind of what I have to expect, and as you go through the room, you start understanding that better.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely agree. And then the last one that we have...
It's our favorites.
This might be our favorite. Ask for help.
That's right.
So just a couple thoughts on that.
Please.
Is that we're here to have fun. We're here to have a good time. If you have been here before, you know how this works. If you'd like some help, we have you sing.
That's right.
And then in Barrel of Lies, you have a code word that you have to come up with. We do get our share of competitive people in here, and that is completely fine. But that is what we are here for. We are here to be asked for help.
That's right.
So if you're struggling with a puzzle, you know, you want to make sure that you are asking for that help.
Yeah, absolutely, Eric. Asking for help is very important, and I would say, again, even if you are competitive, you know, if you are bent against asking for help, you know, that's fine, no judgment here, but conversely, if you ask for help, I promise, we don't care. That is what we are here for. That is, what I tell groups every time is that it does not matter to me, it is whatever makes the game most fun for you.
Absolutely.
Because at the end of the day, you're here to have an experience, you're here to flex your brain, absolutely. But if you need my help, I mean, there's absolutely zero shame in that. It is however I can make your experience better. And if that means that you're stuck on something and you need a nudge in the right direction, who am I to get in the way of that? It's part of the strategy. If you are struggling with something, just reach out, ask for help.
Yeah, we don't. You need 3 clues or 300 clues or whatever you need.
That's right.
We don't care.
No,
we
absolutely not.
You care way more than we do about giving you clues. You know, if that's something that you want to do, you want to challenge yourself and try to get through the room by yourself without any help, we're fine to do that. And we really try to do the best of our ability to figure out when you need those clues. You know, we do have groups that you're like, we only want clues when we ask for them. Okay,
sure,
fine. You know, usually what we do here is once you sing for us, we will continually give you clues throughout the rest of the game.
Yep.
Some people don't want that. That's completely fine.
Absolutely.
And you know, it's very helpful for us to know that on the front end before we get into the game. Which we have that sometimes.
We've had that on occasion.
But yeah, we don't care however many clues you need, because we're, like I said, we're here to have just as much fun as what you are.
That's right.
And you know, we hope that when you come in here, you're gonna have a great time. You're gonna have fun, and that's really what we're about here, is just
love seeing it,
having fun and having a great time.
That's right. Well, that about wraps up our 12 tips. I guess, do you have any closing remarks, Eric?
No. Thank you all for joining us today. We really do appreciate it. Look for our next episode to drop next Thursday. We'll be dropping a new episode each Thursday.
Yep.
So look for our next episode next week. And by all means, if you have topics that you'd like us to talk about, by all means, give us a suggestion in the comments below, and we'll absolutely put that on our menu to put that on one of our future episodes.
Very much so. Well, thanks everybody for tuning into the Mission Breakout Lafayette Experience. We'll be back at you next week. Hope everybody enjoys themselves. Take care.
All right. See ya.
Bye.